Is there something wrong with the name Ruby? I know someone named Ruby. She's a very nice lady and never has problems with her name. Maybe your mom thought you said Booby? My grandma had 4 sisters: Opal, Garnet, Ruby, and Lily. My poor grandma was Nancy. I always loved stone and flower names. When I was little, I would read books about Snow White and her sister Ruby Red. I loved Ruby Red, so I love the name. Unless this is a different culture and language and you are translating the name into English. I don't think this is a you thing. I think it's a your mom thing. I have a cousin named Ruby. She and I both grew up in the Midwestern United States. I have the impression that some people thought it was a bit trashy or lower class, but definitely not scandalous. I've heard some people describe any name that's a common as opposed to proper noun as a stripper name. Crystal, Georgia, April, Rose, Faith, etc. They view them as sexual and lower class. I don't really know why, but it's pretty consistent with some people I've met. My Aunt Ruby was the auntie we all spent 2 weeks every summer with. 3 generations of my family spent 2 weeks every summer with Aunt Ruby and took our swimming lessons down the street. When she was 94 and on hospice, she told me she was so old she can't buy green bananas. Ruby is a nice name. I'd give people still think this way, but 15-20 years ago, it was common to suspect any girl who tells you her name is some sort of flower or gemstone is actually a stripper, and that's her stage name. My nephew, Pussadick, said to tell you that Ruby is an awesome name. Sounds like your mom may have an issue with someone named Ruby. I said the same thing to my mother when I was a little girl, and she told me it was a whore name. Then she had to explain what a whore was. Fun times. Not to my knowledge. I mean, there's literally a little kid TV show called Max, and Ruby sounds like her mom has beef with someone named Ruby. It was my stripper name, hahaha. But I got it from Ruby Tuesday or whatever that song was. I still think it's a lovely name, and I felt it was classy for the club I was in. Ruby Gillies was the worst girl in Avonlea. Just ask Lucy Maud Montgomery. She was beautiful but a horrible stuck-up bully. She died of consumption. No one wants to be Ruby. Other than that, if you have managed to avoid the Anne of Green Gables fandom, Ruby is a perfectly lovely name. Either she thinks it's a stripper name or your dad had an affair. Or Ruby. My son is named Pussadick, and I'm offended that you used it as an example of a bad name. Ruby is a very normal name for a girl. Don't know what your mom's problem is. It's been a girl's name since the Victorian era. That's why a show was called Ruby Gloom and no one bat an eye. I don't know, every time I hear it I just see red. I don't know, the only thing I can think of is stripper names. I had a friend named Ruby, and when I was younger, my parents told me that was a stripper's name, had no idea what a stripper was at the time. And then when I said I would name my daughter Crystal, they were like, that's a stripper's name? Absolutely not, could it be something like that? This is the response I get from 90 of people when I tell them I want to name my future daughter Luna, including my mother. I truly don't get it. It must be some form of hatred against non-traditional sounding names, or one time someone said that's a name for a cat or dog, okay? People name their dogs Lucy and Stella, but they are still real names for humans. It's not my fault people pick out human names for their pets. It's a pretty stone and a pretty name, and a great song. Nothing wrong with it at all. Ya mum be crazy. HTTPS. Is she racist against black people by any chance? Ruby Bridges is the name of the first black child to attend a white school in southern USA. But I think I saw in another comment that y'all are Canadian? So definitely a stretch, but the only negative connotation I can think of. Unless she really hates demons on fictional shows, lol.